So it's a late September evening. We're about a month away from Halloween. Do you feel your powers intensifying as the holiday gets closer?
Yes. Soon darkness will come. Yeah. No, I mean, of course, as you can tell by some of the things I've done, it's my favorite time of year, you know. I mean, growing up in Burbank, where we feel the season so deeply there, you know, the autumn, fall colors and everything, you know, it's beautiful.
Would it be weird? Do you have also any affection for, like, you know, Valentine's Day, Arbor Day?
No, I think Valentine's Day should be.
Right.
In fact, maybe that could be the sequel. Jack Skellington goes and destroys Valentine's. Yeah.
Sounds very cheerful. Yes. You know, there are, you know, of course, you know, common threads and elements to your movies, and I wonder. I mean, do you get offered, you know, so much material about, you know, vampires and skeletons and people who die and come back from the dead or don't come back?
Sounds really depressing.
Yeah, I mean, say, does it, you know, does it feel reductive if people only think of you that way?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you spend your life, you know, feeling like a creature and trying to become a human being, and then they try to turn you back into some kind of weird creature again. But I mean, I love those things. I love skeletons. We all do. We all have them. Right. Otherwise, we'd be all a bunch of blobs on the floor right now. Right. You know? So they're great.
Right. I guess I meant it. You know, I mean it also in the sense of, you know, the way that material comes to you, or how you find things that you want to do. If people approach you with that sort of thing, you know, how do you make sure that you're finding the stories that you want to tell, and you're not getting it through, you know, somebody's filter or perception of what they think you do?
Well, yeah, because I mean, I don't know what I do, so I always get very alarmed when people go, "Oh, this is what you do," because, you know, if you ask people who really know me, they know I don't know what I'm doing, sort of, you know. So it's not something that I like to think of myself in the third person, you know, like as a thing, or this is the, you know, I do this as a style. I mean, I don't really think about a style. I mean, if you look at certain people who draw in a certain way, that's the way they draw, and it's the same with me. You know, it's hard for me to change who I am. You know, you know, if I, you know, I've been trying to do dramas for years, but people perceive them as bad comedies. You know, so you know, or vice versa. So it's kind of like, you know, it's just the only way I can sort of do things.
Right. What has to, you know, happen, or what do you have to see in a piece of material if you can even, you know, articulate it or codify it? Something that, what has to appeal to you for you to say, this is a movie for me, this is a story I want to tell?
Well, I mean, it's a strange thing because there's no real thing. I mean, I've been surprised by the things I've identified with over the years. You know, I mean. You know, in the particular case of this new one, you know, when I read Ransom Briggs' book, it was very easy because there's a lot of themes that I could relate to, and it's, you know, it can just be anything. You really don't know, and that's why it's hard to plan things too far in advance, because you don't really know how you're going to feel in a year's time or a couple of years' time. So it's all very sort of immediate and what you're feeling at that time.
Right. I mean, I think, you know, you were talking earlier just about drawing, and I know drawing is, you know, has and always, you know, continues to be a big part of just the kind of art that you like to create, and it's part of how you got your start. Did you think, even, you know, making hand drawings as, you know, either a child or an art student, that this is someday going to take me into a world of actually being a filmmaker and a movie director?
No, not at all, because I mean, that's why, you know, go to my kids' school, you go to any school, and you see all kids draw amazingly. They all draw, you know, you don't really recognize one talent over another at a certain age, and then fascinatingly, it gets sort of whipped out of you as you get older, like, oh, I can't draw. I mean, it happened to me, like, oh, I can't really draw, you know, I can't draw like this. I'm supposed to draw like cute Disney characters. I can't do it. Right. And then I just had one sort of mind-blowing day where I was in a farmer's market, and I just said, I can't draw like that, and I just sort of like had a mind sort of opening experience, and I just started to draw however I felt, the only way I could draw. So, you know, that was an important. That's why drawing's always been important to me. It's just you get things, you know, ideas out, and you know, and most artists that I've read about, they spend their whole lives trying to go back and find that simplicity that they, you know, I remember seeing a Matisse retrospect where he just, by the end, he was going back to try to find that sort of beautiful simplicity that he had from the beginning.
You know, there are movies of yours that, you know, even if the sort of, let's say the target audience isn't, you know, formally stated, and there might still be, bloodshed or, scary situations or truly horrific, situations. Even in Miss Peregrine, there's quite a bit of real, terror and tension. Is that anything that you ever have to sort of, make a case for to a studio to say?
All the time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, all the time. I mean, it's like Sleepy Hollow, everything,
Yeah.
And it's like, you can point out several million other examples that are worse than what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? And for some reason, like I remember on Batman Returns, it's like they were going to give it like an R rating because, for one thing, sticking stuffed animals down the garbage disposal and Michelle Pfeiffer turning it on. It's like, what? I mean, so it's kind of Kafkaesque kind of things you deal with.
If you get the opportunity to make any kind of movie, no matter what it is, just do it.
Well,
just go ahead and make it.
And that's what I loved about Ed Wood. You listen to it, it's like weird poetry. Look at the dialogue; it's beautiful. And the thing I sort of relate to Ed Wood is that in terms of are you talented or are you not? Is this going to be good? Is this going to be bad? And also just that weird feeling as a filmmaking family. When you're making a film, it is like a weird dysfunctional family, and there's something beautiful about that. And that's one of the things I loved is sort of little weird family he was surrounded himself with.
One of the many things that was great about Ed Wood was that Martin Landau won an Academy Award for his performance playing Bela Lugosi in that. And in addition to him, you had wonderful opportunities to work with people like Christopher Lee and Vincent Price, and in Miss Peregrine, they're great roles for people like Terrence Stamp. I don't know if you could maybe just talk a little bit about why it's so important to you that these kinds of actors, people that mean a lot to you, that you keep creating roles for them.
It's important because that's what inspired you. I was lucky to meet Vincent Price. That was the first one. It wrote that little short Vincent, and he responded. And it's so incredible to have the people that inspired you as a child. And then you meet them, and they're great people. He's interested in art and supported the arts and all these things. And the same thing with Christopher Lee. It's just like, he just starts talking. And then, first meeting I had, 2 hours go by, and it's like, oh my God, I've just been hypnotized by Dracula. He is like, it's like, yes, I understand. But it also, but there was an interesting dynamic, because I remember on Sleepy Hollow, there's a little part in Sleepy Hollow, and I go like, well, what about Christopher Lee? And then everybody goes, he's dead. Oh. And I go, right, he's dead. And I was fascinated by how many people were like so willing him to be dead.
Yeah.
And then, so several years later, I said to these same people, I go, oh, boy, it's funny how that dead man went on to do 3 Star Wars and 8 Lord of the Rings pictures. Good for him.
Right.
Dead man working.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.